Okay, everybody, welcome to lesson number 39 and welcome to unit number 6 on financial literacy. Out of all of the math curriculum, this is a very important unit. And this unit actually got added in recent years because of real life. I think there were a lot of things about money and banks and numbers in general, and that whole topic that students would go into the real world after high school and kind of not have any knowledge about it and be a little bit more confused. And you hear it all the time. There's comments saying, oh, they didn't teach that in school, or they're not going to teach that in school. So I think they decided, we probably should teach it in school. So we are going to be talking about a lot of real life situations in this unit. It's all real life situations, actually. And we're going to be talking about money and saving and investing. And we're going to be learning some words. Maybe you know them already, maybe you don't. So today we're going to be looking at income and expenses. So we have a little bubble there saying, yay, I just earned $500 from a job. Do I get to keep the whole $500? So if you earn $500 at work, do you get to keep that whole amount? Yes or no? I think in our heads, we like to think, yeah, get to keep the whole amount. But in reality, right, we have expenses. We have to pay for things. And maybe that $500 isn't really what we think it is when we break it down. So in this lesson, we're going to look at income versus expenses. We're going to look at gross income, net income, and deductions. So our net income is our gross income minus our deductions. So this will come up in a later lesson, but just so you have an idea, we have something called this net income, and our net income is something called gross income minus something called deductions. So we're going to look at expenses. We have fixed expenses, variable expenses, and discretionary expenses. Fixed expenses, these are expenses that are the same each month and they do not change. For example, your rent. Your rent, you pay every month. That amount of rent doesn't change. It's a fixed expense. Variable expense. These expenses change based on a lot of different things. So, for example, cost of groceries. Our grocery bill that we pay will be different every grocery trip because it depends on what we're buying. We could do one trip where we buy a bag of chips and we spend maybe, $10. And or we could do a big grocery trip, we're filling up our fridge, that's hundreds of dollars. So that's a variable expense. It will change. A discretionary expense, these are optional and it's not a required expense. It's not like you need this expense to live. So, for example, it's entertainment. It's like going to the movies or going to a restaurant. This is discretionary and you can think of it as like fun money. It's a fun thing to do. So, when we interpret financial information, we look at income versus expenses. So, we're looking at how much money did someone make versus how much money did someone spend on expenses. And then when we look at that, we can determine if they're in a surplus or a deficit. So, is there a lot of money left over? Is there any money left over? If there's any money left over, that's called a surplus. They're in a surplus. If there is no money left over and they're in a negative, maybe they owe money or they went into debt, that's a deficit. We can use these questions and analyze a financial situation by interpreting financial information to make strong financial decisions. So, whenever we're looking at any type of financial situation, it's to make an informed decision. So, for example, here we have a student named Alex, and he earns $800 at a part-time job. Alex has to pay $120 in taxes. These taxes that's called a deduction. So Alex also has all these expenses listed below. So Alex has to pay rent, buy groceries to feed himself. He has $100 phone bill, and maybe looks like he spent $120 on entertainment. So that could be movies, restaurants, anything like that. So after looking at that whole situation, all his numbers, after analyzing Alex's financial situation, let's answer these questions. So what is Alex's net income? So at the beginning there, for our net income at the very top here, our net income was our gross income. So this is our total number, our total income minus our deductions, something like taxes. That gives us our net income. So if we go back to our example here. So what is his net income? That is our gross, which is 800. Our gross income is 800 minus deductions, which it tells us it was $120. So we will go 800 minus, and that will give us $680 of net income. Now we have to categorize his expenses as fixed, variable, or discretionary. So we will use F for fixed, V for variable, and D for discretionary. So rent does not change. That is a fixed expense. Groceries is variable. We know that changes. Let's think about a phone bill. Our phone bill, we have phone plans and we choose that plan because we know our monthly costs. So that's a fixed expense. That will not change. And $120 on entertainment. Entertainment is discretionary. Does Alex have money left over? So let's do some calculations. If we take the 600 or the 800, we take away his deductions, and then we have to minus all his expenses. So if we add all these expenses together, let's see what that is. 300 plus 150 plus 100 plus 120. So this is $670. So we have to minus $670. That's the total of his expenses. So let's see what we have. 800 minus deductions, taxes, which is 120, minus his expenses, which was 670, leaves us with $10. So therefore, yes, he is in a surplus. Alex has $10 left over. Example number 2. Jamie earns $1,000 per month. Deductions are a total of $180. Calculate Jamie's net income. So we know net is gross minus deductions. So net income will be her gross. Her total is 1,000 minus her deductions is 180. So we're left with $820. So therefore, Jamie net income is $820. And now it's asking you to explain what net income means in your own words. Okay, so let's think about it. In your own words, what is net income? Me, I'm going to put it in my own words. Net income is how much money you bring home. after all deductions. That is what net income is to me. We have a list of expenses here. Categorize each expense as fixed, variable, or discretionary. So again, rent, we know, fixed. Netflix. Netflix, do we need Netflix? I would say Netflix is discretionary. Groceries, we need groceries. We do need to eat. So groceries, it would be variable, but it changes. A bus pass. Now, a bus pass, I feel like that depends. Some people do need transportation to get to work and to get to school, but a bus pass sometimes is like a Presto pass where you load money and you just like pay as you go. If you use a bus 5 times a week, you'll pay more that week than if you use the bus 3 times the next week. So that would make it variable. If you're going to the transportation store and you're buying a physical bus pass every month and you're just using that bus pass, that would be a fixed because that's the same price every month. So I'm going to take this bus pass as the bus pass that you go in and you purchase every month. It's the same bus pass every month. So that would be a fixed. Video games, discretionary. Phone bill, fixed. We know our phone plans have prices. We chose them. We know what we're paying every month. Taylor, example 4. Taylor has the following monthly budget. So Taylor has a net income of $1,200. So that means that after deductions, Taylor's bringing home $1,200. Now this is the list of Taylor's expenses. $500 on rent, $250 on food, $100 on transportation, $200 on entertainment, and an $80 phone bill. What is the amount of Taylor's total expenses? So we have to add all of her expenses together. If we had 500 plus 250 plus 100 plus 200 plus 80, that will give us, so Taylor's total expenses is $1,130. Does Taylor have any money left over, or is Taylor in a deficit? Let's see. So we have $1,200 minus her expenses. So she does have money, yes, over. Taylor does have money left over. So yes. Yes. Taylor has $70 left over. No, Taylor is not in a deficit. And notice how I addressed both parts of the question. So whenever we talk about any type of math question, you want to address both parts of the question that's being asked to you. It asked me if she had money left over. I chose to give the amount. And I also addressed the deficit part of the question. And I said, no, she's not in a deficit. Is this a healthy budget? So healthy budget means, do you think this is a good budget? Do you think what she's spending makes sense based on what she's making? She's bringing home $1,200, so she's bringing home $1,200. She's spending $1,130. In my opinion, is $70 enough in between? I'm gonna say no. I think that $70 is not enough buffer room for life. And I don't think $70 is enough for, say, an emergency comes up. Maybe this didn't mention anything about, you know, like schooling. Is she paying for books? books, anything like that. So, and this also mentions she spent $200 on entertainment. Maybe she or Taylor could save a little bit on that entertainment amount and invest it, save it to build some sort of savings for herself. So I'm going to say, to answer my question, I'm going to say no. I think $70 is not enough buffer for emergencies. They could save on their discretionary expenses to have a healthier budget. And a reflection question. So, why is it important to understand your income and expenses? Like, why does this even matter? So, this matters because um, it helps people live a comfortable life. So, if you spend more than you make, then you're going to be in a more stressful position because you're always going to be short on money. Maybe you're going to owe money. Maybe you're going to go into debt, and that's not fun. And this is also important that if maybe you want to save for a house, so maybe you want to save for a car, stuff like that. Understand what you have left over, what money you have to work with. So we're going to write down why is it important to understand. It is important to understand income and expenses because it helps us not spend more money than we have. It makes it easier for us to save money. And if you don't know what's coming or going, it's really easy to run out of money. If we don't track our expenses, it is easy to run out of money quickly. And this might resonate with some of you. Maybe some of you want to get better at budgeting, or maybe some of you are really good at understanding how much money you have, what your expenses are. And if that's you, that's great. So, this is our introduction to financial literacy. Today, we spoke about income and expenses and what that means. And there is a student handout to go with today's work. And I will see you next lesson.